Good morning, Stampers. Today, by very popular demand, I've gotten several emails about this and messages through my social media to try and do a tutorial of this Stampscape card. Um, I will do my best. I was just playing when I made it just to see if I could do it. And it turned out fairly well. I mean, I see the flaws, but of course nobody else will. So we're going to go ahead and try to make this card today. We're going to do the lake. It's got kind of several things going on in it. It's got some shadow stamping, some block coloring, some sponging and torn paper and that sort of thing. So let's gather our supplies. For this card, I used the Let It Ride stamp set. This is not just beautiful. And for the greeting, I really liked this Home to Roost, which is right now still a Celebrations, which you can get till the 31st of this month with a qualifying order. But enjoy the simple moments, and a moonlight by the lake seemed like a simple moment to me. I am very new at stampscaping. I like doing it because I like sponging, so we're kind of just gonna learn it together. Kind of like the oceanscape that I taught with watercolors. When you do stampscaping or any type of watercolor or mixed media, it's never going to be the same twice, which is why I kind of like it. So let's go ahead and get started. For our card base, I have a regular 4 1/4, so regular 4 1/4 by 8 1/2 scored. Just whisper white cardstock. I did want a black mat, so this is 4 by 5 1/4. I wanted the black to pull the rocks and things out. You don't want too bright of a mat. It'll take from your image depending on what colors you're using on your Stampscape. And since this is a night scene, black seemed to be appropriate. A lot of times when you make a Stampscape, go to your paper cabinet, take your Stampscape and go up against your papers, see what you like best. Uh, most mixed media, it's kind of what you prefer. And then our regular image piece is 3 3/4 by 5. So I'm going to leave this here so you can kind of see what we're doing. So we kind of, when you start, are going to try to figure out where you're going to want your layouts. I know I wanted some mountains in the back with the nice bright moon and some clouds. By not doing really smooth sponging, you kind of create that fog effect, like there's fog on the lake. So you can do this a couple different ways. You can use a piece of paper and tear, or if you have sticky notes that are long enough to go across, whatever you'd like, whatever's easiest for you. But what we're going to start with is I'm going to take a small sticky note and a 1-inch circle punch. Yes, look how old this is. It's the old whale tail. So we're going to take and we're going to make our moon. And try to cut your moon where you have sticky, because that'll just make it stick to your paper easily. So I think my trees are going to go here. Let's put our moon about right there. See if I can move in a little bit on this for you. Okay, now we need, I want to do my skies first. So I need to create my mountainscape. I'm just going to take another sticky note and I'm going to create a mountain by just doing some tearing. It kind of lay it on there, see if you like the way the mountains look. And a little bit deep. Since these mountains are pretty far in the background, I want my mountains to be kind of smaller. So my mountains are going to go a little over my moon because my moon's going to be sun setting behind the mountains. And with the sticky note, it'll actually hold it down a little bit. So for the sky, for the colors we're going to be using today, and it's a really small palette considering how this turned out. We're going to use some balmy blue, some blueberry bushel, night of navy, and some smoky slate. The smoky slate's going to be more of our fog. So when you're sponging, I just use these sponge daubers. You can use regular sponges, regular stamping sponges, and I do have some where I cut them in quarters and use them when I'm sponging large scenes. So whatever you're comfortable using. There are people that are really good with brayers. I don't. I like brayers. I just don't get the effect I'm trying to get. I seem like I have more control when I use a small dauber. So we want to start with our lightest color first. In each of my daubers, I actually label. So when I put them back in their cases, I know what colors they belong to. And with these new awesome ink pads that Stampin' Up! Came out with, I always know what color I'm working with there. I suppose these older ones had that ability to put it in there. I guess I just never noticed before. But on these, you can kind of see what you have there. So we're going to put our night and navy with there. Our blueberry bushel. So what I do is I kind of line mine up, lightest to darkest, because that's how you're going to sponge. Gray. So I'll move these down a little because my gray is my lightest. I want to, wait, I got them mixed up already. There we go, that one goes there, that one goes there. So I'm going to do a little bit of smoky slate. Just dab it in your ink pad. And just a little bit around my moon. Because I want that night fog of a lake. And you can just dab it, which will also give you some of that kind of blotchy fog look. So we're just going to add a little bit on there along our mountain. Now we're going to take this is our balmy blue, our next darker color. And we're going to go around our center, which is our lightest area. And what I'm doing here is I'm holding down my paper. See if it doesn't, so it doesn't move. Get some blue around your moon. Oops, my sticky note didn't stay down. It's going to be okay though. And by swiping, you're adding a little bit of that cloud swipe like clouds get. A little bit more around my moon. Okay. Now we're going to go to our blueberry bushel. It's our next darker color. And we're going to come from the outside in. And I start off my paper when I'm sponging so I don't get a big blotch. We're going to go around our edge because our edges are going to be our darker. I know I want these corners pretty dark, so I'm concentrating there and then dragging out. This is the side where our trees are going to go, so it's going to have a little more shadow on this side, a little darker shadow. You just keep working with it until you get the effect you're going for. Now I'm going to take this still and do a few more of my little cloud streaks, where it's going to add a couple little dark streaks for my clouds. And we want it kind of patchy there, so that's okay. It creates a fog effect. Now I'm going to take my darkest night of navy and we're going to hit our corners because your moon is brighter in the center. So start in your darkest spot and drag outward, or drag inward. I apologize. It's early here. It's like 3 a.m. here right now. I'm going to do just a little bit of highlight along the top of my mountains. So I'm kind of halfway on the paper and halfway off when I do it. It doesn't look like you're putting a lot there, but when you lift your paper, you'll add a couple of my little cloud blots. Okay, now we're going to lift our mountain because I kind of like my sky the way it is. I'm going to get this corner one more time. I want the very corners fairly dark. Then we lift. We have our mountain. And now for the mountain itself, I'm going to raise my moon because our moon is going to be behind the mountain. You can use this same paper if you want, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take it and create my horizon of where the lake is. And so I don't go all the way up into my moon. I'm going to take another sticky note and just do a little mountain tear on it. And just set it across my moon so that I'm still going to have my moon, but there's going to be some mountain right there. Okay, so now I want to take my light blue again, my balmy blue, and always start with your lighter color. So we're going to do our mountains and go up into your blue. It's not going to hurt it, it's just going to blend it. And it kind of gets rid of that sharp edge it has. And it's okay if it's a little lighter right by your moon because your moon's shining there. Okay, that was our balmy blue. I'm going to take just a little bit of blueberry bushel and I want to add just some highlights in my mountains because, and you can just dab it because your mountains are not always the same color blue. You're adding just some highlights to them. It kind of gives them texture. A little blotchy right there, didn't I? See if I can blend that out a little. That's why I always try to start my dauber off my paper to avoid that right there. But I'm going to try to blend it out a little bit. Okay, now we're going to take up our mountain. And there we have our moon. I'm going to take my lightest balmy blue and add just a little bit of, yeah, I didn't even re-ink it. Just a couple little foggy blotches on my moon. So it kind of looks foggy or a light blue moon and not so stark white. Okay. So now we're going to do our water. And what you can do is take your mask and go back over your mountain, but leave a very small line. Let's see if I can get this to show up on the camera. See where you can kind of see the blue there? Let's see if it's showing up or not. But I just want a really small line because that's where we're going to blend up into that mountain. So now I want my water to be lighter. So I'm going to take my balmy blue and I'm going to start, because I know my moon is right here down the middle. And I'm just going to add a little bit of streaks of the lighter blue. And when you do side swiping on your ocean or your lake, it just gives it more the ripple effect. So I know this area here we're going to mask and create a mountain. So it's okay that we don't do a lot there. But we know where our mountain's going to be. It's going to be a little darker up here. So just blend it in a little bit. And you're kind of blending that harsh edge you have for your mountain. That's why you mask up a little bit. And do the same over here. Because it's going to be behind our trees. And we know this corner is going to be darker. So go along your edge. Okay. Now I'm going to take a little bit of blueberry bushel, come to my dark areas, and when you swipe it, it creates your water effect. Kind of the ripples in your water. And try not to go over too much of where your moonlight is, so you're going from the outside in. Okay. Now I want to create where my trees are, and then I can color in the rest of my lake. I kind of just want my lake started. But I am going to add just a touch of gray to my lake, the smoky slate, and just a few swipes. That's going to give it kind of that fog mist. Even though I'm going to be covering this whole area, I still kind of seem to use it as my main palette. because then it's going to blend easily off of your mountain. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we want our trees, but second, I have a harsh edge here. I'm going to soften this edge a little bit. I just used the balmy blue. So there's your mountains. And if they look really stark to you, just take your lightest color first. Just blend in. Blend a little bit. And then go move darker as you need to. Blend out your harsh line. Okay, so now for the trees, what I did is I did use my Stamparatus. I'm going to move all these up a little bit. Normally I close my inks right away, but for the sake of this tutorial, and since it is a long one, I'll just save you some time. So for this, I am using my Stamparatus. One, because when you have this much ink on a piece of paper, you often have to stamp more than once. Yes, I broke my magnets. That's the second set I've done that. Don't let them touch. I'm just saying. They touch, they break. They're very strong. So we're going to grab our trees. And your trees already have just a little bit of land on them, which is fine because we're going to color in. Now I don't want my trees to cover my moon too much. So I'll figure out where I want them. Then I'm going to take Memento Black. Ink up your stamp really well. I like to let my stamp soak in, so I leave it setting for a second. And see where it didn't come in real stark black. That's okay, but we're going to stamp it again. I just put my hand in the ink. Hello. Yes, I'm a very messy crafter. So I'm going to wipe this off a little bit so that I can position it again without a blur. I want to add a few more trees in there, so I'm lining them up staggered. And now I want my tall ones here at the edge. So just layering some trees there. There we go, nice and dark. So now for the little island, all I did is take, and I apologize, I couldn't find my Stampin' Right marker, I just used it. You can use your black blends marker or a black, this is my black memento marker. So I want to create my island, but I want to leave ocean behind. So all I'm going to do is lightly sketch it. Where I want it. And then I'm going to take my black sponge and my memento and sponge my little land. That way the trees still show. If you want a little more detail, just take your marker and color it in a little bit. But you want your trees to show there a little bit. At least on the upper edge of your island, because the moon is shining on them. So now we're going to shadow stamp. I'm going to close my black. We're going to bring in our basic gray. And we're going to line up our trees opposite there. And I'm going to put them about halfway up. And I know I have a tree right there, so let's start all the way over on the side here. Pick up our stamp. Now I'm only going to ink the top edge of these. It's okay if it goes up in there, but when you see a reflection on a lake or bank, there's kind of a little light area where the water meets the land that there isn't really a reflection. So all we're doing is inking the top of our trees here. And I didn't get enough ink on there, so we're just going to do that one more time. Use the edge of your ink pad and just ink up half the stamp. See, you end up a little shadow there. I'm going to wipe it off and line it up again to some more trees there. And kind of do a line from tree trunk down. Ink the top. Now I want to get this little tree here. So I'm going to line up my large one there with the tree. And I only have to ink these two to get my effect. So pick it up. And I'm just going to ink these two tops. You could do this with a marker too, but this is just a simple. The reflection doesn't have to be perfect. See? You have your reflective trees. We'll put our gray over there. So now for our mountain, we're going to take another piece of paper, or our paper. What do I do with my big one? You can use this one if you want, but all we're going to do is create the mountain. So I'm actually going to use a sticky note so that it'll stick there. So where do I want it? I want it about there. So let's go across here. And I'm making a slight ledge here that the horses are standing on. I guess we don't need this at the moment. I'm going to move this out of our way so we have some workspace here. Oh. See you guys? I just did that whole thing backward. We want it to be on the outside here. I guess I will edit that. I will remove that. Now I have to rethink. I scared myself there. There we go. There's our mountain ledge. I want it a little more sharp. Okay, there we go, peeps. Oh my goodness. And what I'm going to do, because I tore off my sticky on this, if you have a removable adhesive, this is just like an, I don't even know what this is. I've had this for years. It's just like a dotto. And I'm just going to put a little bit on my mask so it doesn't move. And it is erasable, so. I don't even know the name of that, or if I figure it out, I'll put it in the remarks. So we're going to create our mountain. And I found the easiest way to do this mountain is to take your ink pad, your Memento black ink pad, and turn this around, and drag it across. Because it's so much black, you could be sponging till you're blue in the face. There you go. I'm going to let that dry a second because I will get ink everywhere. Dry it a little. I'm just covering my ink there. You peel it off, you have your mountain. So then I'm going to take my Stampin' Blend so that it's just not a plain black. I'm going to sharpen my edges just a little bit to create my mountain. And then I'm just going to do some random, and believe it or not, it's going to show in the black. And it just kind of looks like a rocky mountain. Okay. Now we're going to grab our two horses. I love this set. Do you guys not love the new cling stamps? Ugh. Okay. So I want my horses. Oh, we need our stamparatus. I would suggest, yes, use your stamparatus whenever you're doing Stampscapes because you are putting a lot of ink on there. And you saw you have to stamp things more than once. So I'm going to put my horses here on top of the ledge. I'm going to stamp them in black. See, I should have had him up a little higher, but that's okay. We're going to be able to accent him to show. You're going to take your black marker and color in your horses. Even though they are overlapping on the black, color all the way down on them and they will stand out on the black when it dries, believe it or not. You saw the original image. You can actually, even though his nose is on the ground, you can still see him. Or her. Sorry. A little horse. Okay, now to finish our water, see I'm a little light there, so all I'm going to do is take my balmy blue, drag sideways across your water, gives it that little bit right along the edge of where your mountain is. And behind your horses, there's going to be a little bit darker because your moon's coming down the center. Okay, I'm going to go to my next darkest. Alright, let's go to Night of Navy in this corner. So let's go to Night of Navy. Darken up our corner here a little bit. And just under your island, because your island's blocking the moonlight. Do your final accents of any dark you want while you have your Night of Navy out. We're kind of framing in our moonlight by doing this. Drag streaks across. By using the darker on the outside edges, it just kind of frames it in. Now, we got that, and just to finish off the water, close these ink pads, and then we just about have it. Ooh, that was almost a huge party foul. Normally I would drop that ink side down on my entire project. That's how my luck goes. So we're going to take our white Stampin' chalk marker. We're going to add a few stars. Okay, now we have a few stars in the water too, because it's reflecting. Now take your chalk marker and very lightly add a couple of little swipes. There's no, and you'll see with the chalk marker, it actually will blend it a little bit, or smear it where your trees are, so it gives it more of the reflection look. And then because it's who I am, it's got to have bling. But what I did find, when you use your Wink Stella, it actually also blends it. Go a little bit over those little white streaks you made, and randomly throughout your water. Getting the water behind the trees there. For our greeting, I white embossed on our Home to Roost set, enjoy the simple moments. To me, sitting by a lake is a simple moment. Oops. I just dropped my stamps on the floor. So we're going to bring back our stamparatus. And I would definitely suggest using your embossing buddy when you do this, because there's so many inks, or the ink is still somewhat tacky. So we're going to take our embossing buddy, line up our greeting. My island isn't as big as it was before, but that's okay. Bring in our Versamark. Did I emboss you, buddy? I'm going to white emboss it. I wanted to do white because it kind of draws the moon out. You could probably do black if you wanted to. I'm just bringing the scrap paper in to see. Even with the embossing buddy, there's a little bit of area where because you have so much ink on your paper. Okay, let me go heat set this. So we've got that heat set, and now we can see, which is the other good thing, is I'll show you how to fix a mess up. Like I said, when you do Stampscapes or mixed media, it's never going to be the same twice, but it looks like I kind of lost the moments there. So what I'm going to do is just take my mountain here, mask it off a little bit. We'll see if this works. You'll find out with me. Just going to take my Stampin' Blend. I wouldn't go over the comments with your Stampin' Blend because it will color it with the Stampin' Blend. We're going to use the regular marker there for the sponge. This is our black sponge colored in. then you can just take a tissue. Oh, there you go. There's another technique. Emboss resist. Take a tissue and wipe off your embossing pattern. And then we're just going to attach this to our card base. And then to here. I didn't pop this one up. When I do most of my Stampscapes, I want, instead of a lot of dimension and things that are taking from the actual project, I'll just glue them straight down. Or tape, whatever your favorite adhesive is. And there you go. There's our Stampscape. It's close, but as you see, it's a little difficult to duplicate a Stampscape the same way. I actually like our new one better. I think it looks a lot kind of foggier and mistier. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial, and thank you everybody who requested it and are very patient with my new to doing technique videos. I do a lot of techniques. I just don't do them on film. I even have technique ring that I've put together. You'll find this on my website. But there's over 50 techniques just in this ring, with pictures and step-by-step instructions how to do them, how to do stained glass, how to do cracked glass, curtain fold cards, masking, all of this. It's got all the how to do masking and reverse masking in there. So if you're interested, please stop by my website and look under techniques and ideas, and you'll find it there. Thank you everybody for joining me, and have a happy stampin' day.